Hi, my name is Sydney Sarah. I wanted to do a video essay on just how I feel about movies, music, and media, and just how it seems like there's such a lack of originality, especially when it comes to television. And there's a few shows that have originality, but it's definitely not a lot of them. And I honestly feel like there has been a decrease in quality too. And like and especially in wholesome quality. I'm just kind of like I wanted this to be structured, but it's not. I'm just going to just riff off the top of my head with how I feel about just the entertainment industry. And it just seems like I don't see a lot of shows where and I know it probably has reflected the times as well, but we need to bring shows back that have like a sense of family and community, and just like I would like to see shows that have like all of the kids eating around the dinner table. And the last time I personally, this is just all my opinion, this whole video, the last time I honestly saw that was an episode of Law and Order where like one of the police captains, they were having family eat around the dinner table, and it was just like, whoa, like I just realized I haven't seen that in a minute. I haven't seen a show where they have family literally just eating around the dinner table and everybody's just talking about how their day was. I also don't like how there really is like a darkness more in shows, and I don't mean like literal and spiritual, because I would watch, movies or a TV show with my family, and it would, we would set it up like how in the movie theaters it's dark and the only thing that's, showing light is the big screen. And I remember one movie, I forgot the title of, but it was so for like a good minute, like for a good portion of the movie, it was so dark. And I couldn't barely see anything. I mean, now I do realize like I wear glasses, so I don't got like necessarily 20/20 vision, but it's like glasses on, glasses off, like I still couldn't see what we were looking at. And it's like, why are so many shows and movies literally are darker? This could be, with, how things were filmed back then and camera equipment, but it's like there's literal darkness like that, and then the spiritual darkness of things being hypersexualized and over-sexualized. And it was what concerns me most of all, because there are so many shows where there is like an unnecessary need for nudity, and it's unnecessary like graphic sex scenes. Like, nobody should be ashamed of their bodies or anything. And I feel like there's a tasteful way of showing a sex scene. It really is. Because I feel like I have seen more titties on shows than I care to admit. And and especially like a lot of male butt cheeks, and I'm really just like, well, is that really necessary? For me, a perfect example of nudity that's necessary is how, and this is off the top of my head, when you have like slavery movies like Roots and Amistad, and they're showing how the slaves were literally, historically speaking, were on those boats naked and in horrible conditions coming from Africa to the Americas. So that historical depiction, that really does matter. And I appreciate the truth and the accuracy in that, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know, how I appreciate how with Bridgerton, Shonda Rhimes has, you know, calmed down on the sex scenes from season 1 versus, you know, the rest of the seasons afterwards. And now it's necessary to lead up to the romantic buildup of making love, you know. And I just can't appreciate when there really is it seems like there's a time and a place even in the movies or TV shows where that should be included and that should be filmed. But if it's just like bam, nudity here and bam, sex scene there, and it's just like every single episode somebody's naked or there's sex, it just seems like it's overkill. And it seems like it's too, I'm not even gonna say raunchy. It's just, in bed, that could be also the perfect adjective for it, but it's also very much just, it's unnecessary. It's overkill and it's unnecessary. Also, I have been really burdened by this. I've been watching Gossip Girl on Netflix, and it's been a very, you know, fun time binge watching that. I just noticed that it was TV 14 when it had originally came out on cable television. And I just was so like grieved, because when was the last time we saw anything that it was rated TV 14? Like, if there's really a show or a movie out there that's rated TV 14 and you're watching this video, please let me know in the comments, because I really am curious to see if there's any TV 14 movies or TV shows out there. I really am just like, I remember when Grey's Anatomy was TV 14. I remember it was so many shows. I think Ugly Betty was TV 14. There was so many shows in the early 2000s that was TV 14. Now everything is TVMA. Everything is TVMA. And I'm like, oh my God, no. Like, I hate it. It's because it's like, there are some things that should be TVMA, and then there's like, I personally don't remember the last time I saw a rating that was PG-13 or unless it was like a kids movie, you know what I'm saying? And other than that, I don't remember. Like, I just barely see any, I don't even see rated R like that. Like, it's still, I know that's still a TV rating that's still out there, but it's not. I remember when that was like a more common TV rating. Now like almost, it feels like almost everything is TVMA. And that concerns me, because there needs to be more wholesomeness in television again. And because to me, Gossip Girl has wholesome moments, you know, like how I really thought it was wholesome where Blair and Serena, I think I'm on season 4, and in the beginning of season 4, they are, well, the transition from season 3 to season 4, they went to Paris as like, you know, a cute little girls trip, and to just focus on themselves. And Blair was, you know, trying to find a prince, and it was her blackmailing self. And I really thought that scene, that part of the show was adorable. Or where Jenny Humphrey was, you know, really into fashion and was very invested in her craft, in working for Eleanor Waldorf, and really being invested in her future in fashion. It's things like that I truly miss, because while you have characters going into their career endeavors, to me, it seems like with the redundancy of sex, it really overshadows sometimes everything else in the storyline. I really just, There are some shows that are great, but then there are other shows that just have, they would be greater if there wasn't so much unnecessary sex and nudity in it. And I'm not even going to name any specific show or movie. It's a trend. This is a trend that I'm pointing out here. I remember where, now this is also coming from a Christian perspective, especially with this part of the video. I remember where, believe it or not, it was more like churchy scenes or more church influence. Case in point, I remember when I was binge watching Girlfriends, and it was like a delightful surprise for me to see Pastor Donnie McClurkin, who, if you don't know, he's a black gospel artist, and he's well known in the black gospel community, or some people would call it charismatic Christian community. And he was singing one of his hits called Stand. You know, what would you do? And you done all you can, and seem like there's never enough. So he was singing that in church, and Joan and Tony were having an argument. They weren't getting along, and they weren't speaking to each other, and they had to come to church, and that's when Joan forgave Tony for I forgot what, and you know, in church they reconciled their differences. They then there was also the Parkers, where by the way, Countess Vaughn's voice is underrated. I said what I said. She, as Kim Parker, was in the church. Her and her mother were in this like church choir competition, and you know, and then the shenanigans with that. Then there was one of my favorite, like, I guess, churchy moments in TV, if you will, when I binge watched Sister Sister after actually watching that. I mean, all of these shows I actually watched like in real time when it came on, but Sister Sister was my jam. And how it was on Disney Channel, I'll faithfully watch that show. And Kirk Franklin was in one of the episodes having a real conversation with Jordan about hypocritical people in church. And by the end of the episode, we see Tia Tamara in the choir, and they, you know, getting their praise on with Kirk Franklin, blah blah blah. Proud Family, one of Kirk Franklin's songs, I think it was the beginning of He Reigns, and how one of the funky looking characters, I guess was like a weird looking pastor, was in one of the episodes. I really just, it's just moments like that where in Gossip Girl, Blair went to a Catholic, well, this is Catholicism, but Blair went to a Catholic priest in one of those confessionals, and talking about her, you know, just being so in love or having feelings for Chuck Bass, and she was just like, what do I do? And the Catholic priest gave her actual like biblical advice, and then she sees Chuck minutes later in the limo, and she was like, I basically got instructions from God to leave you alone or to stay away from you. I loved that. I just love that scene. So there was, and also back then, maybe it was how things were filmed, but it was a lot brighter. The TV shows and the movies literally looked a lot brighter. Also, the only nude scene that I remember ever in these movies were in the movie American Pie, and the girl is like in this blue, to be honest, it looked like a Hawaiian looking shirt, but she was like, she didn't have no shirt on underneath. It was like, it was a topless scene. That's the only nudity that I remember for real. Otherwise, it was more sexually suggestive scenes. Like, there was always the one scene where there was some woman, like, when she wanted to flash somebody, she had her back turned to the camera, and then it was like, you know, away from the camera. That was the only, it wasn't so, it just wasn't a lot of nudity. It was sexually suggestive, but it was not a lot of nudity. And there was the TV-14 rating. I just, like, it also concerns me. So this even ties into how certain stores are closing, like Claire's, and I don't know if they're completely closed. Let me rephrase that. I know they're at risk of being closed. I will say that. They're not doing well in terms of business because there is no longer, and it's going to make sense how this all ties in together. There's no longer a tween stage between 10 to 15 years old, 14, 15 years old. And that stage matters. That stage matters where it's like the blue, awkward eyeshadow. You're trying to put on makeup for the first time and it's so over the top. It's horrible makeup. But hey, you are a girl growing up to be a young woman, and you are in your awkward, I'm not gonna say ugly duckling, you're in your awkward duckling phase before you turn into a swan. And it matters to have that, how do I say it? Like, it matters to have that boy band, Justin Bieber type tween phase, like the teen pop star phase. Like, we don't see that no more. We don't really see that anymore. And so many young girls now, I'm 28 years old. So there's a lot of teen girls younger than me who I've disturbingly see on social media that have fast forwarded to being a little girl to wanting to be a grown woman just like that. And it's like, even as a teenager, you're still a child. So just the way that things are structured to just take innocence away, snatch it away, is demonic. Like, that like the Justice and Claire type stores for that tween stage, that matters. That transition matters in your adolescence and development as a woman. It will help as for boys too, as a human being, because to just jump over that, it's really disturbing to me. And they're trying to be like, really, I know this sounds old, but they're trying to be grown so quick. And I don't want to call them fast, because I really just, this is all, who I blame is the influence of the elite, the powers that be, the higher ups that want to just, and the pedophiles in power that want to over sexualize everything and push it to the younger generation so bad. And they want to snatch innocence away. They want to just all wholesome content, all innocent content is just it feels like it's almost gone. And there is the hypersexualization in movies and music, as well as on social media. It all is a conglomerate in result to prey upon the younger generation. So it's just like, now you have teenagers that look more grown than what they actually are, and being like the ultimate jailbait. And there are 13-year-olds who are looking 16, or 16 who are 16-year-olds who look 18 and 19, or flat out in their 20s and they're all of 15, 16 years old, or 17, but that's still a minor. So it's just, it's scary. And then they think that they can get away with, being in certain adult spaces, and they can get away with certain stuff until things get dangerous. And that's another reason why I'm making this video, is because just I so badly am just, well, first of all, I just wanted to rant, and also just because I want better TV and movies and music. I want better wholesome content. There, like, the music also is just, I remember when growing up, I heard so many times, so often, that it was very hard to get into the music industry because you had to actually have real talent. You had to, it was such a high standard because, oh, you say you can rap, oh, you say you can sing. Well, let's actually see if you have talent. Whereas I'll never, ever, ever forgive the music industry from being that versus now having things like mumble rap, you know, even in, I know that has basically phased, thank God it has phased out, but just the fact that that was even a thing, it still, every once in a while, it just still irks my soul. Like, why was that even permissible? And we have such a hyper fixation on sex, and is being it's so redundant now because there is just, it's so much of it with men and women. I'm not going to just, you know, say, oh, it's the women rapping about their coochie. It's the men and women, you know, and it's about, like, it's about sex, and it's about money, it's about drugs, like per usual, but it's really ramped up, you know. And I remember when R&B was not, now we have the girlies now, like, thank God for Coco Jones and Money Long and her, like, it's a small percentage of them, but you know, they are at least mainstream, and they're getting real R&B music out where it's about intimacy, and not, it just, R&B went, it had a nosedive from talking about love and relationship problems and, yeah, toxicity, but it was at least about something more complex than just, oh baby, let me lick you up and down type shit. You know, it's just, it was an actual conversation. Like when Music Soul Child said, teach me how to love. Show me the way I surrender my heart. Like, show me how to actually love you. And now it's just, more often than not, it's about sex. The newer artists are talking about sex. But I also notice there's also independent artists that are not talking about sex, and they're more talented than most mainstream artists, and they not being recognized like they should. There's starting to be a shift, but I'm just saying, like, that's what it has been for the longest. And just the quality of stuff feels so blah. It feels so unexciting. It doesn't feel as vibrant anymore. I do recognize the shift between cable television and streaming, which is why TV is actually, like, struggling. Cable television. And because people can just see things on demand in a streaming app. That's why. And it just, and then pay for, like, an ad-free subscription too. Oh yeah, ain't nobody watching TV no more. So there is a lot to adjust to, but there are so many ideas that God has given me, and I can't wait to share those ideas with the right people. I really want to be a part of a revival of higher quality, wholesome, original content in movies, in television, and music. And I even made my own little list, at least in my head. But I made my own little list, like I wrote it down too, of things to make better quality television and movies and music. For one, when I say more family and more shows about, like, community, what I loved when I binge watched the Gilmore Girls is that you know, cute little town in Connecticut, that small town, there still was a sense of community. Like, for instance, in the town hall meetings, or Luke's Diner, or Lorelai's Inn, I really loved just how there was community that was actually looking out for each other. Now, and I do understand that's very rare nowadays, but there was a sense of, and then there was also gossip too. Like, that's normal. That's just what's gonna happen. But at least there was a sense of community that seemed like there were actually, like, for instance, people looking out for Rory and what boy is she dating now and type stuff. But I honestly loved how people were looking out for her because they knew that she had a good head on her shoulders and was headed to Yale. And I want to see more of that. And I just don't see it like that. Girlfriends, there was that little community of all the 4 women and William, and then your other characters here and there in the episodes, but there was a sense of community. I also think about how the game had, and I mean like the game where like Tia Mowry was dating Derwin Davis, the Sabres. I loved how that talked about like the football community, and how Tasha Mack and Kelly Pitts and Melanie Barnett, one of them, med school, like they all just, when they all came together when it mattered. I just don't see that a lot. Maybe it's with nowadays it's more so with like an actual family, like where you have the Bridgertons and it's like 11 of them kids, but right now there are so many like I want to see Daphne again and Duke of Hastings. Like I want to see, like, it's okay for them the characters to go off and do their own thing, but now there's so many kids that have gone off and gotten married and are now the Bridgerton family is being more and more separated. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, I want to see more community and more family themes in movies and television. Another thing is that okay, this is a bit touchy. In the 2000s, and I was a kid. I was born in 1997, so I do understand that. So as I was watching Disney Channel and Nickelodeon and like Cartoon Network, there was still an element of truth when it came to disciplining kids. There was one guy that pointed out that, and yes, he was a Christian dude, but it made a good point that there were so many shows where you see the parents that were actually protecting their children. They were honestly strict. It may have been like in a funny, dramatic way for the show, but they were in a sense strict, and they were really doing their best to protect their children from foolishness. Now it has gone to where or I'll just say like in recent years, like I'm saying in the late 2010s, maybe early 2020s, but the late 2010s, where the parents are dumb, and they were, especially like, I don't recognize this Disney Channel, but that's what I'm talking about. Those shows be having like parents just be acting so dumb and clueless to what their kids is doing, and I really just it's like, come on now, really. So discipline, however you administer it to your kids, and there is a difference between discipline and abuse, but it matters because it gives your child a structure to be a decent person in society. You do not want to raise a narcissistic child. So with that being said, I would like to see an element of like truth and more discipline from the parents, not in a way where it's so over the top, but there were episodes where, as the parent was doing their best to be a parent and protecting and guiding and disciplining their child, at the end of the episode, there was a more understanding conversation, like, I'm still your mother, I'm still your father, but I understand why you feel like this, or I understand why you saw it from that perspective, or I'm finally listening to what you're saying, and how me doing this, really hurt your feelings, and that's not what I intended to do. It was always some kind of, talk, some kind of emotional talk at the end of the episode. But they achieved an understanding. Also, okay, when it comes to sex and sex scenes, I honestly would like to see more intimacy building instead of just going straight to sex. What I loved about this recent show that's been on, well, they've already ended the show, I'll say that, but I'm saying in recent years, that's what I meant. In recent years, this show, This Is Us, which was a whole moment. What I loved about Randall's scene with his wife, one of those scenes with his wife, they were in the bathroom and they were both about to chill in the bathtub, and I'm like, oh, here's some sexy spicy time. But they didn't show that. I was expecting it, but what actually happened was they were having an intimate talk, and they were being vulnerable with each other about whatever issue that was going on and how they felt about it. And then it got like a little more steamy, and then they cut to a different scene. I loved that scene because I was expecting kissing and touching and rubbing and all that. I mean, in the bathtub, like, come on now. But they didn't do that. It was an intimate moment. So there should be intimacy and intimacy building in shows, in movies, before it's just straight up like sex, and nudity. It's just there is a reason why foreplay exists. There's a reason why when you are alone with your lover, there are times where, yeah, okay, you want to get straight into it, but why not have conversations that has been on your heart or on your partner's heart, and actually have a heart-to-heart conversation before y'all even start making out? Like, come on. Like, there's reasons why intimacy matters. It's for, let's show more closeness. Let's show more unconditional love between two people before it just goes into sex. There's some shows that kind of do that, but not a lot. The last thing I'm gonna say is I need a return of innocence, of wholesomeness, because also back in the early 2000s, there were TV shows that was talking about people having, issues in their careers, especially how in Girlfriends, Joan, was having issues making partner in the law firm that she was working in. I loved that. It just seemed like a Black woman in a career field that is so important and valued. I really loved that. And there was issues also with, when there was issues in relationships, it was not centered around sex. It was, and if it was, it seems like more if it was like sexually suggestive, but it was like, oh, so like, he hurt my feelings, and is he with another girl, and stuff like that, and or a guy complaining about like his girlfriend's mood swings or whatever, or it's some kind of like misunderstanding of when to or when not to go on a date, or it was just other stuff like dating, like things like that. That's the intimacy building parts that I'm talking about. There was other issues to discuss. There were, and I'm going back even further now when I say this. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, shows like Good Times and The Jeffersons and even Fresh Prince, like there were TV shows that were made like statements about societal issues and current events. I'm going to watch real soon this documentary on the show All in the Family, and it's called 1975, I think. I know that's in the title. So I'm going to watch that, but they were talking about real issues versus now it's just so everything is centered around sex, and people are tired of it, me included, because damn, like there's more to life than just sex. Like, okay, sex feels good. Next, like damn, like what? There is plenty of things to talk about. other than sex. So I really need to see some more innocence and wholesomeness return to television because it's needed. I'm gonna put this out here in the universe. I want to see the rating TV-14 come back. And I so desperately want to be a part of that. It's just something that burdens me about not seeing that TV rating anymore. It really just hurts my heart. Like, I remember everything I used to watch was TV-14. And it was a good show. It was a hilarious show. Or it was a dramatic show. And it talked about, like, complex issues. And especially when it came to, let's say, a woman dealing with beauty standards. Like, it was so much more things to talk about. There was actually a lot more mentally stimulating conversations in TV shows and movies and in music. But if we're just all debasing it into sex and, you know, just wanting your needs met in that way, it shouldn't be so over the top with it, or it shouldn't be so much of it that people are now just over it. They're tired of it. They want to see something new. They want to see something different. And then also, this is hence the reason why there's at that, you know, that, I don't know, that reboot era has finally come to a close, but it needs to. It needs to. Because it's so unoriginal. It's so unoriginal. I am going to say this in closing. God has given me ideas where, you know, God willing, whenever I get into the entertainment industry, I will be pursuing and creating those ideas and being a part of those ideas. I really want to be a part of this revival of the entertainment industry. And it's a revival because it's an increase of better quality, wholesome content. It's just a rebirth of film and television in a way that is, I don't want to, for lack of a better word, is nostalgic, but better and more future minded. What I mean by that is, wow, this TV show or this movie reminds me of how I felt watching this show back then, but it's so new and different in concepts and characters and storylines and how the plot thickens or twists and how it's all written. But this is like the same quality, if not better, of the shows and movies I used to watch back then. That's what I'm talking about. I want to create new characters, new shows, new concepts, but with better quality, with better storylines, with better filming, with better, and I mean better filming because I was like, there's too many shows and TVs that's literally in the dark. Like, there's so many movies with so many dark sections in it, you can't see what the hell going on. And then when one character goes from one location to the next, it's like, whoa, what happened in this? I can't see in this dark scene of the movie. So, yeah, I really want to be a part of that. I said I want to pee. I don't have to pee. I want to be a part of that kind of revival of the entertainment industry, because people are looking for something new, something original, something that is show-stopping, as I'm ironically talking about shows, for everyone to talk about, and it's not just so filled up with sex and nudity. Because enough is enough. And if there is a sex scene that will be in any of the shows that I have ideas for, it's going to be where it matters and where it's necessary versus just flat out just bam, some titties. Like, okay. All right. This is the 11th time I done seen your chest. Or I done seen some men's butt cheeks. Like, it's just, come on. That's, okay, we're at 40 minutes. So, that's my educational rant about the entertainment industry and my take on it. I wonder how y'all feel in the comments. You like, do you agree? Do you disagree? What shows are TV-14 rated? Please, I would love to watch them. I'm so concerned. I've been so burdened feels like for years about this. So I just wanted to just get it out on some kind of platform. So thanks y'all for watching, especially if you got literally to the end of the video. Thank you very much. Grace upon grace. Toodles.